female conscription, and the hidden truth of being a woman in the North Korean military. To this day, North Korea largely remains an enigma to the outside world. Most of what we know of its country, culture, and authoritarian regime is delivered on the lips of those who have escaped, often going through harrowing trials to do so. One of the stories they tell us is of their life serving in the North Korean military, something every man and woman must do for a set number of years, as dictated by Supreme Leader Kim Jong-Un. Conscription became mandatory for young, educated women in 2015. Reportedly, from 2021, it was changed from 7 years to 5 years of service. It's estimated that about 40% of women aged 18 to 25 are in the army. According to an anonymous North Korean source, the reason for this change was the high child mortality rates and low birth rates in the country, blaming the North Korean famine of 1994 to 98 for the lack of available conscripts. The source claimed the inclusion of women was to try to boost the subsequent military shortfall. Once chosen, as with most armed forces, women conscripts have to pass a series of physical tests and medical exams. One of the main priorities is to test for potentially contagious diseases like tuberculosis or hepatitis. Since 2012, another requirement is that women must also be above 1.42 meters or 4.6 feet, although that's not strictly enforced. Not much is known about who may be exempt from this military service. However, it's speculated exceptionally gifted students may be able to avoid conscription. But even before 2015, a number of women still voluntarily signed up to the military for one specific purpose: to obtain membership into the Korean Workers' Party. Once your application was accepted, a world of new opportunities became available. Outside the military, being a member guarantees security and success in North Korea. Within the military, you received privileges like increased rations, better jobs, and higher salaries. Big draws, especially when the food rations were meager offerings of a bowl of rice and cabbage soup with some salted radish. Nowhere near enough for people who engage in strenuous physical activity daily, often in the frigid conditions of Pyongyang. A typical day in the North Korean Army is similar for men and women. Both are expected to do hard, free labor alongside their set military training, like farming and construction projects. Videos exposing the truth of military service have shown women clearing farmland and carrying heavy bundles of firewood, or even rocks on their back, the same as the men alongside them. As if that wasn't exhausting enough, women have additional duties men weren't prevailed upon to complete, as a woman's place is allegedly in the kitchen, literally being referred to as tukong unjeongsu, or cooking pot lid drivers. Typical household chores also fall to the females of the North Korean Army. While the men are elsewhere, women cook and clean for their fellow soldiers before retiring to study or rest in a room crammed with 24 other women. Each soldier received a bunk and a small set of drawers. Atop it, each should have two pictures, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong Il, although that may have now been updated to include the current leader, Kim Jong-Un. These cramped conditions didn't help hygiene levels, and sleeping on a mattress made of rice hull meant sweat often soaked into the bedding. Adding to this discomfort, women had to contend with the lack of basic facilities in general, including minimal electricity and insufficient access to menstruation products. Until 2015, they often had to use makeshift sanitary towels fashioned from bandages. But with inadequate nutrition and the stress of military life, many women stopped menstruating altogether. Hygiene outside of the barracks was no better, with showers consisting of cold water from hoses, sometimes even with frogs or snakes coming through. This vulnerability is only exemplified by the general treatment of women by superiors across the North Korean military. Horrific stories from defectors have emerged, including brutal tales of physical and sexual assault and harassment, from which they have no legal recourse. Poorer women, who are often sent to work on construction brigades, are especially vulnerable to attack, as protection in these environments is even slimmer. Even if they had a recourse, most women would never report their abusers as the risk of retaliation is simply too great. Female defectors tell stories of commanders holding women soldiers for hours after dismissal, or of a major general forcing them to undergo faux examinations under the guise of checking for malnutrition. To expose these predators for who they really are would risk a female soldier's reputation and could result in them being barred from joining the Korean Workers' Party. If that were to happen, they'd become stigmatized and it would follow the victim around for the rest of their life. As a result, women blackmailed into silence are often forced to endure horrific acts of violence against them with no power to prevent it. And if these unions were unlucky enough to result in a pregnancy, female soldiers were apparently to blame and had to take care of the problem quickly and often painfully. Putting their own lives at risk, they do what they can to make sure no baby is carried to term. Otherwise, if they were discovered, particularly if it involved a high-up perpetrator, the military would take over the handling of the pregnancy. This led to forced, traumatizing abortions, where women would undergo the process without any access to anesthesia. Those that escaped this abuse may still not have escaped the cruel and grueling punishments. Just one person had to make a mistake for all to be punished. One defector, Jennifer Kim, talks of punishments that last all day and being forced to stand outside in the cold in her underwear or run 100 laps in full uniform. One of the most horrific she tells of, however, is when women soldiers had their hands plunged into icy water before being placed immediately on frigid cold iron bars. The freezing conditions meant their hands immediately froze to the bar, ripping off a layer of skin when removed. The horrible truth, though, is that the army still might be preferable to some women than another option for young Koreans, Kim Jong-un's Pleasure Squad. The Pleasure Squad was an entity that began long before Kim Jong-un's reign, according to defectors, first popularized by his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. Although disbanded after Kim Jong Il's death in 2011, Kim Jong-un reportedly decided to re-establish pleasure squads in 2015. But what are pleasure squads? Pleasure squads, or kipjumjo, are pretty much exactly as they sound. Harems of women used as puppets to demonstrate Kim Jong-un's supposed sexual prowess. These squads reportedly contain up to 2,000 women who are split into 3 groups. The first group were the satisfaction team for him and his top generals. The second, known as the happiness team, who provided massages and relaxation. And the final team who were responsible for singing and dancing. Once Kim Jong-il inherited his position, a height measure was also introduced, given the supreme leader's own short stature, as none could or should tower over him. The Pleasure Squad girls needed to be under 165 centimeters tall. After their recruitment, the girls would be kept in the leader's mansion and brought out to entertain high-ranking officials with parties loaded on booze and sexual activity. These girls could remain in the Pleasure Squad service for up to 10 years before being released into a marriage with a North Korean military officer. When Kim Jong-un came to power, he disbanded the Pleasure Squad, as he apparently didn't trust any of the women who had been close to his father, or indeed anyone in his administration. Each was given a large sum, in North Korea, of $4,000 in hush money and various household appliances. From then, there was no Pleasure Squad. That is, until 2015, when it was reported he had restarted the tradition. Kim Jong-un continues to exploit women across North Korea in every facet of daily and military life. Though the women in uniform have proven to be strong and capable, they endure daily atrocities that no one should have to endure. Here at Simple History, we've been creating videos for over 10 years, and during that time, we've seen the industry evolve in so many ways. From advancements in production tools to how our audiences consume content, things have changed dramatically. And one of the most exciting advancements is the rise of AI, which is why we're thrilled to introduce today's sponsor, InVideo AI. They've developed a tool that has revolutionized the way videos can be made. With the latest version, InVideo AI version 3, which is launching in just a few weeks, you can create full-length AI-generated videos just by using prompts, and it's a game changer. Whether you're telling a story, crafting something imaginative, or even explaining historical events, in-video AI makes it incredibly easy. For instance, let's take a step into the future. Imagine creating a short cyberpunk film about a robot who wants to break free from their reality.
In the neon-lit labyrinth of Neo-Tokyo, there existed a robot named Nexus. Born in a dingy back-alley workshop, Nexus was crafted not for greatness, but for menial tasks.
As you can see, in-video AI doesn't just generate clips, it creates fully realized videos that are ready to share across social platforms. This makes it a standout from other tools like Sora or Runway. And the best part? You can tweak your videos with simple text commands to add or change elements instantly.
Nexus stood atop the skyscraper, knowing his journey was far from over.
If you're eager to try out their current version, you can start today for free and create up to 4 videos. But trust us, once you see the results, upgrading to their paid plan is well worth it. At just $20 a month, you'll remove watermarks and unlock access to millions of royalty-free clips for unlimited video creation. So if you're ready to transform your videos, click the link below and use the code SIMPLEHISTORY50 to double your video generation credits for the first month. A big thanks to InVideo for sponsoring this video.